What's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at this 2022 Ford Mustang GT. Big shout out and thank you to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this pre-owned 2022 GT for today's video. Definitely check the link to their website linked below. And the model that we're looking at today is finished off in cyber orange metallic and has a list price around $50,000. Underneath the hood of the 2022 Ford Mustang GT, you're going to find a naturally aspirated 5-liter 8-cylinder engine. This V8 pumps out 450 horsepower with 410 pound-feet of torque. It's paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission and sends the power to the rear wheels through a 3.15 limited slip differential. 0 to 60 is around 4 seconds flat with a quarter-mile time at 12.2, and then it'll top out around 155 miles per hour. It also weighs in around 3,800 pounds, and running on a 16-gallon fuel tank, you're looking at 15 miles per gallon in the city with 24 out on the highway. Wheelbase is 107.1 with overall length at 188.5, height is 54.3, and width is 75.4 inches. The GT Mustang is also going to feature 4-piston brake calipers up front with ventilated rotors, and then ventilated rotors in back with floating calipers. And then now moving on to the exterior styling with the outgoing Ford Mustang GT. Really sharp lines all around, and it certainly has that classic design. We get a set of LED headlights with a blacked out design. You can also see that traditional 3-bar look for the DRLs right in the center. You get some really sharp lines leading their way down the bumper. Then you can see your turn signal down below with a small cutout vent, and then really sharp lines making their way all around the front end. I really like the plastic black you're going to see for this forwards facing splitter. You can see how it protrudes outwards with a little bit of body color above that, and then we get another opening with mesh in that same plastic black. Up top we get a gloss black grille with a gloss black pony logo as well, and you can see how all the lines come together very well. Leading our way to the hood, you can see more sharp lines, and then 2 functional heat extraction vents with really sharp lines on the farthest sides leading their way all the way towards the windshield. I really like how large the hood is. It definitely gives it that muscle car appearance. Then as you make our way to the side profile, we get a set of gloss black wheels with a 5-spoke design. They measure 19 inches in all 4 corners and have a really good look with the blackout theme on this particular spec. You can see a sharp line around the front fender as well as a gloss black 5.0 badge. Then we have a side splitter that matches very well to that front splitter with another sharp line through the door. This also gets body color door handles with a really sharp line cutting through them, and then gloss black on the mirror caps. You can see black around the windows as well as a gloss black roof and a gloss black shark fin antenna. And then looking at the side profile, I love how everything is so proportional. You get that sloping rear end to give it that fastback appearance. It looks such like a muscle car, and I love how that fades its way right into the trunk. The Mustang has a great proportion and a great profile. Then you can also see this really sharp body line above the rear fender. It gives it a wider appearance in back with more sharp lines. Then we even get a gloss black spoiler mounted on the trunk, and then gloss black all throughout the center. We get the GT badge as well as a rear view backup camera. Then I love these traditional 3-bar LED taillights. Of course you're going to get that sequential turn signal in these as well. Then you can see more sharp lines all throughout the rear bumper with a dual quad-tipped exhaust. You can see more of this plastic black for the rear diffuser with your reverse light in the center, and then some nice sharp fins. So there's a good look at the outgoing S550 Mustang GT. Still a great looking muscle car even with the 2024 unveiled. We have Ford Mustang's key fob, pretty basic as you would expect. If I go ahead and lock the car and then double tap on the engine start stop button, that 5.0 is going to roar to life, and as expected it sounds really good. Pressing the button again, we can shut that off, and then keeping the key fob in my pocket, all I have to do is grab the door handle, it'll unlock it, and we can check out this interior. This particular spec gets the ebony leather interior with a little bit of silver trim as well as white stitching. As we make our way to the door panel now, finished off in black, you can also see color contrast stitching, a little bit of padding for your armrest, and then your grab handle right here with an aluminum colored trim piece. Window controls and mirror controls, then your release handle with lock and unlock, some speakers, as well as storage down below. This gets the Mustang logo written out on the door sill, and then there are some power controls for these leather seats. You do have manual recline, however, And then I really love these really large bolsters. You can see contrast stitching, perforated leather in the center. Really nice looking seats for not even being the Recaros. You can see the stitching as well as the perforated leather making their way up the backrest, and even some color contrast stitching on the headrest. And then we get a black leather steering wheel with silver trim. And then now inside the GT, keeping my foot on the brake, we can go ahead and fire it up. We get the standard gauge cluster on this particular spec with your analog tack on the left and then your speedometer over on the right, and then a small LCD screen right in the center that you can configure using the buttons on the right side of the steering wheel. So if I go ahead and scroll through here, we can go into settings and see all sorts of different things for your vehicle. You can then go back out of there into the color, the key, display settings, and a few more. We have all the driver's assistance that you can scroll through, and then trip and fuel information, and then your gauge mode as well, which will show all sorts of different vitals within the car. Taking a look at the steering wheel now, we have the Pony logo right in the center, a lot of your Bluetooth and audio controls on the left with cruise control settings, and then a few more of those Bluetooth controls on the right side with the control panel for that screen. The automatic Mustang will have a set of steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. They're finished in plastic, however, they're a decent size. And then we have our turn signal stock on the left side, and then your windshield wipers over on the right. On the left of the actual steering wheel, we have your trunk release button, as well as a little bit of storage that will pop out. And then all of your headlight controls are right here, along with the interior dimming. Then we have a really cool textured plastic material with one of your air vents, and then the traditional double bump for the dashboard. We're not going to see the same design on the new Mustang, so this traditional look is going to be gone. However, we have a Mustang logo, and then this does look like it's brushed aluminum. It's a pretty cool design. We have 3 air vents right in the center, and then the Sync 3 infotainment. You can see we have some settings right here for all the settings within the car. You can scroll left and right and see a few more. We have your apps icon as well, phone integration, climate control settings will also come up on the screen. Very easily you can adjust your fan speed and dual zone temperature. Then we also have your audio. You have more controls down below for all the audio controls, volume on the left, tuning on the right, and a few more in the center. And then you do get physical climate controls with heated and ventilated seating. Your dual zone temperature can be adjusted by just tapping these toggles, and it'll even come up on the screen as well. We have more controls all throughout the center as well as your fan speed. Then I really love the aluminum colored toggle switches. We have our hazard control, traction control, and then your drive mode and steering wheel. If we toggle this one, you can see your steering feel you can change, and then the drive mode select, you also have several different modes to really configure the car the way you'd like it. Behind that, we have a little bit of storage, a 12 volt and USB, and then the 10-speed shifter. Has a nice aluminum design to it with your different gears up top and a leather shift boot. And this car still has a manual parking brake with a leather shift boot, 2 cup holders on the right, and then some more leather in the center. Opening that up, we have a pretty good amount of storage space in here, along with a USB port. And then the glove box on the right side opens up, and it's a pretty large bucket. One last look at the S550's interior. Still a nice classic design. This of course has a pretty retro vibe to it, and yet it's pretty modern. Definitely gives you all sorts of goodies that you're going to need to daily drive this and use it from the normal driving. And then up on top we get your LED dome lights as well as your mirror. The Mustang GT has back seats, so if I go ahead and grab the handle behind the seat, I can get this out of the way, and it gives you a little bit better access. We have 2 bucket seats back here with the same leather design, perforated leather, along with the color contrast stitching. So then sitting now in the back seat of the Mustang GT, so at 5'11", it's all right back here. There's not really exactly any headroom. And then the legroom, if I put the seat all the way back, a little cramped as well, as you can see, but nonetheless, for being a 2-door car with these extra back seats back here, it still is nice to know that it's a decently practical car. Just so you know, headroom is going to be pretty darn compromised. There's no amenities back here as well. You get just the slightest bit of an armrest, but at least it's pretty functional for a 2-door car. Moving on to the trunk space, you can double tap the button on the key fob, use the one on the rear bumper, or of course that one on the interior. Opening this up, the Mustang is a pretty practical car with a really large trunk. As you can see, we have all sorts of space in here with a pretty large opening as well. And then you can grab the seats manually and fold them down out of the way to really amplify how much space you can get in a Mustang. So then walking through the side now, the seats fold down nearly flat and the opening's pretty large to make this a very practical car. All right, so we are setting off now in the GT Mustang. So this is just normal mode with the comfort steering. So the GT Mustang honestly is one of those really good, well-rounded cars. You can honestly use this for pretty much anything. It's easy to drive, it's really comfortable. This one doesn't have the performance package or anything crazy performance oriented in it. It's really just the blackout package and the leather seating, but it's comfortable. You know, it absorbs the bumps well when you're cruising. You can hear that V8. There's no active valve on this particular spec, but it's not a crazy loud exhaust stock. It sounds really good without being overbearing. Visibility is really good, as you can see. You can easily see out the windshield. I love how you can see the bumps on the dash, as well as some of the lines on the hood. You know, it gives you that classic muscle car feeling. Mirrors all do a great job. And looking over your left and right shoulder, really good visibility. There's really not too many blind spots. It's an easy car just to drive from the day to day, and not really anything to sacrifice. You can even see the sharp lines on those rear fenders through the mirrors, which is a pretty cool touch. But the steering feel right now in comfort mode is really light. Throttle response is decent, and transmission is really smooth. So it's just a normal, easy car to drive, and you can just do anything with a Mustang. That's something really nice about them. However, if we toggle this into the track mode and then go into the sport steering, we'll bump that into the sport for the transmission, and just by tapping the paddle shifter, this puts us into the manual mode. Now 10 speeds are quite a lot to deal with. However, I think when you're using the paddles, kind of stick with like under 8, and that'll make it feel a lot more like a normal manual transmission or a paddle shift transmission. But I think if you at least do that, it makes it a lot easier. So right now the steering feels definitely a lot harder and tighter as we go around in a parking lot. So I like how there is that configuration. The track mode on this one doesn't really seem to do much. Maybe it's just throttle response that sharpens a tear, but I wouldn't say, you know, without the magnetic suspension or anything, it doesn't do all too much. I gotta say though, this does get up to speed pretty well. It's not crazy fast, you know, blow your socks off, but it's a smooth power delivery. And the 10 speed, when you're on it, is really, really quick. So it's a pretty peppy car. I mean, it'll get up to some speed nicely. If you want the one that really throws you back in your seat, obviously a GT 500 with the supercharged motor is gonna give you that crazy power. But, you know, even a GT, just a smooth power band. You can have quite a lot of fun in a car like this. So flipping around to my perspective, what is it really like to drive? In my opinion. Alright, the GT Mustang, it's a pretty fun car. It's just, like I said, just really, really well-rounded. You get a balanced engine with a linear power delivery, the 10-speed really quick. Of course, the 6-speed manual is still available, which I personally like a lot better, just a lot more fun, more engaging. But if you do want the quickest possible setup, obviously the automatic is going to shift way quicker than you can ever shift. But it's a fun car to drive. It's just balanced. It doesn't really feel that heavy. It feels like you can take some turns with it and actually have some fun. Obviously, it's not going to handle like a much smaller car, but you know, nonetheless, it's a pretty good in the middle of the road kind of car. If you look at the Camaro and the Challenger, the Camaro is going to be a little bit better for the performance. It's a little bit faster feeling, a little bit better handling. The Challenger, of course, is going to be a lot more, you know, roomy and comfortable and things like that. But this is the sweet spot. It's got plenty of practicality and space. However, it still is a fun sports car at the end of the day. Of course, you have the limited slip and the independent suspension to give you much better handling than the old generations. But, I don't know, you can't go wrong. Even on a sweeper going 60 miles an hour, it does carry its weight really well. And these brakes, it's interesting because I believe the front brakes are actually the same as the Brembo brakes. They just don't have the sticker on them. So you still get plenty of stopping power with a 4-piston caliper up there. So it's really nice to see that you do have a good set of brakes on this car. And they're touchy, they work really well. Just giving it even, I don't know, 10% brake pedal press. I mean, this thing comes down to a slow speed and to a stop. Getting back up to some speed. All around a turn even. The transmission does kind of kick you in the back just a little bit. It's an interesting feeling. It's not like maybe a more performance-oriented transmission like a ZF 8-speed. It doesn't just kick you. It's kind of a little bit of a pull, I would say. So a little interesting. You might notice that when you're really on the car. But if we tone the car back down, comfort mode steering and normal mode and everything, you know, the car is comfortable and just a normal car. The use of materials isn't bad either for what this car is. And when we look at the S650, the 2024 Mustang, there's a lot of similarities. However, it's really just has that massive screen, no more old school bumps, which I've always liked in the Mustang. And I'm sure the use of materials is about the same. From what I've seen, looks about the same. So, you know, don't expect this to be a luxurious car with the nicest material. They say these are leather seats. Not sure if they're real leather or not. They're probably vinyl. But everything you touch in this is pretty solid, pretty nice to feel. And it's just a well-rounded car. Even the Sync 3, which is hasn't been the most up-to-date system forever, but it's easy enough to use. It has all the information that you're gonna need. And overall, this really is just a good, well-rounded car. It's kind of just, like I said, like well-rounded and kind of in the middle of the road of what you get. If you kind of want a lot in one car for a good price, the Mustang is the way to go. GT is the way to go, I think, just because the V8 sounds awesome and it's really smooth in power. EcoBoost is not a bad option as well. But overall, 2022 Mustang GT, the outgoing car. I think Ford did a good job with this generation. I'm excited to see the new one. That is it then for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content to come. And then big shout out and thank you to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this 2022 Mustang GT for today's video. Definitely check out the link to their website linked below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.